Hi all, and welcome to the National Offshore Wind Research and Development Consortium's topic preview webinar for our upcoming Innovations in Offshore Wind Solicitation 2.0. I'm Jürgen Pilot, Program Manager with the Consortium, and I'll be leading today's webinar. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and we intend to upload the live recording to our YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. All registrants to this event will receive the video link via email once it's made available. I'll also mention that we'll share the webinar deck in PDF form on our website as well. This link will be shared in the same email as the video. And finally, you're free to submit questions throughout the webinar using the Zoom Q&A functionality. I'll be able to respond to these at the end of my brief presentation. We encourage process-related questions, but will not be able to respond to questions asking for more detail about the solicitation topics themselves. A note that today we're only sharing the round and challenge area titles. For more information, you'll have to stay tuned for the full solicitation release. I'll also repeat the disclaimer at the bottom of our slides that information shared today is subject to change pending the release of our final Innovations in Offshore Wind Solicitation 2.0 documentation. Before we get into the main topic today, that is our upcoming solicitation, I'd like to share a little bit about the consortium for those who may not be familiar with the organization. The National Offshore Wind Research and Development Consortium is a nationally focused, not-for-profit organization responsible for facilitating prioritized offshore wind research and development to reduce the costs associated with offshore wind while addressing other technical barriers to development. As a consortium, we maintain a membership of approximately 25 private and public offshore wind leaders. We rely on this membership to help us identify and prioritize technical research areas, as well as to maximize our industry engagement efforts. We operate on funding provided by the U.S. Department of Energy, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and the contributions of our members. I've linked to our website below where you can find out more about what we do and who we are. To provide a little more context on the scope of our research and development awards to date, this slide provides a better look at our larger project portfolio. Under our current funding, we've issued, managed, and successfully closed 2 competitive solicitations, under which we've made 40 project awards listed here. At the present time, about 2/3 of these projects have been contracted and are underway. Beyond the issuance and management of our solicitations, the consortium team is also responsible for contract negotiations and technical project management. Awardees under our prior solicitations include universities, national labs, and private companies. Our projects cover a wide breadth of offshore wind topics responsive to previous solicitations. Consortium solicitations aim to address specific U.S. offshore wind challenges as defined in our research and development roadmap. This research and development roadmap, updated this year to its 3rd version, is a virtually hosted public document intended to capture the broader industry challenges facing the U.S. offshore wind industry. Whether or not you intend to respond to our solicitation we are talking about today, we strongly encourage you to make use of our roadmap as a reference tool. I've linked to the online document on the following slide. And now on to our upcoming solicitation. As previously stated, this proposal call will be titled Innovations in Offshore Wind Solicitation 2.0, with a targeted public release in August of 2021. In this webinar, we'd like to publicly share for the first time our round and challenge area titles. Before I do so, I'll provide a little bit of background on how topics will be identified for inclusion and how the solicitation will be structured. So first off, our topic selections are the result of a number of different outreach efforts, including our roadmap survey in March, internal focus groups held in February of 2021, and a number of one-on-one member and external outreach efforts through the spring and early summer of this year. Also, as mentioned earlier, we have 40 awards in our portfolio. And so for this upcoming solicitation, several of our challenge areas are a bit more focused in order to complement the work that we are already funding, as well as the work of others in the space. Administratively speaking, the solicitation will be structured in 2 rounds with total funding of up to $8 million. Round 1 solicitation documentation is planned to be released publicly in August of this year, with proposal due dates in the fall, while round 2 will be updated at a later time with due dates in 2022. Funding for this solicitation, that's both rounds 1 and round 2, will be up to $8 million for up to $4 million each round. This solicitation will be structured and managed very similarly to prior solicitations issued by the consortium and managed similarly through NYSERDA's Salesforce application. The major difference between this solicitation and those that came before is that this time we're requiring initial concept paper submissions for all proposals. Those concept papers will be approximately 4 pages, including any graphics that you might choose to include. Concept papers will be evaluated and scored, with successful concepts receiving invitations for full proposal submissions. Our goal is to have round 1 full proposal reviews complete by the end of the year, with award announcements following in January of 2022. This means we'll have a relatively short timeline for proposal submissions, and it's part of the reason we wanted to provide a topic preview for you folks today, to give you as much advance notice on the topics to be included as possible. So our topics for this solicitation have been selected based on the extensive feedback of our membership and other stakeholders, both internal and external. I will also mention that a serious consideration for us in our selections has been our awareness of other complementary funding opportunities, both planned or available now. We wanted to make sure our selected round topics and round timeline were structured in such a way that dovetails with these other efforts and avoids potential redundancies. The 4 larger topic areas to be addressed in the solicitation are as follows: supply and logistics, operations and maintenance, environmental conflicting use mitigation, and power systems and interconnection. So here on the next slide, I've shared the round and challenge area titles as identified for the Innovations in Offshore Wind Solicitation 2.0. Round 1, which as I mentioned is slated for release in August, is focused around supply and logistics and operations and maintenance. It has 3 challenge areas within. Round 1, challenge area 1, is titled Supply Chain Efficiency and Industrialization. Round 1, challenge area 2, is titled Asset Monitoring and Inspection. And round 1, challenge area 3, is titled Solutions to Reduce or Improve at-sea Maintenance and Repair. Round 2, which will have proposal due dates in 2022, will take on environmental conflicting use mitigation and power systems and interconnection. As you can see, we have placeholders for up to 4 challenge areas that we'll continue to work to define based on the feedback we've collected to date and on our knowledge of other ongoing work in these topic areas. Updated solicitation documentation will be released later in 2021 with additional information on our round 2 topic areas. On this next slide, I've provided our tentative schedule for round 1. All 3 challenge areas under round 1 will be released concurrently and will share due dates. We're targeting a full public solicitation release sometime in August of this year, so fairly soon. Concept papers will be due shortly thereafter on September 16th. Internal concept paper reviews will then be conducted with the assistance of both internal and external scorers, after which full submission invitations will be issued sometime in October of 2021. After this, full proposal submissions will be due on November 10th of 2021, ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday for those in the States. Reviews will follow with the assistance of both internal and external scorers. It's our intent at the Consortium to conclude round 1 reviews in 2021 and issue award announcements in January of 2022. As mentioned at the bottom of this slide, we plan to provide the round 2 schedule later in 2021 when we do share additional challenge area details. So given the aggressive timeline and the limited information we're able to share at this time, we do want to make sure that individuals are notified of additional solicitation related information as soon as it's made available publicly. In order to do so, the consortium will publish information on our website, that's nationaloffshorewind.org, including FAQs and our responses. Additionally, we'll make sure to announce any releases or developments through our social media accounts, including LinkedIn and Twitter. Finally, subscribers to any form of consortium announcements will receive an automated notification by email when the solicitation is formally released. If you'd like to ensure you're on the mailing list, go to our website and scroll down on the main page where you'll see an option to enroll today for notifications. Before I wrap up the presentation portion of this webinar and respond to any questions we've received, I did want to remind everyone to mark their calendars for our annual technical symposium, which will be held November 8th through 10th of this year. In this virtual event held annually, the consortium will be having all of our project teams present upon their awarded project concepts and their progress to date. This is a great opportunity to learn about the many innovations enabled through our funding opportunities, as well as to hear from several guest speakers representing our membership and outside organizations. Event registration will go live later this month, so stay tuned for more information. And that actually concludes my brief presentation. If any folks on the call today have questions, feel free to submit those in the Q&A log, and we'll take a few moments to field those. not all at once. Yeah, happy to revisit the dates for round one, Abby. So let me go back here. So the round one dates are a full solicitation release sometime in August of 2021. Concept papers will be due on September 16th, 2021. Full submission invitations will be issued in October of 2021. Full submissions will be due in November 10th of 2021, and award notifications in January of 2022. And this is all for round one. So we have another question about no topics about installation technology. We can't share anything beyond the round and challenge area titles, although there is a possibility that, potentially, depending on how you angle your proposal, there may be a fit for installation technology somewhere there. I don't want to say any more about that. We have a question from Matt Shields. Can you provide any information about the content that will be required for the concept papers? What I will share is that it's essentially a very pared down version of the full proposals that we've requested previously. Obviously, we're not looking for as much detail. There's no requirement to submit, extensive letters of support or resumes, but we are still going to want to understand the basic value and scope associated with the project submission. Okay, we have a question from Antonios Vietnautas about the readiness of technologies that we're expecting. Typically, we operate on the second or the upper half of the TRL and CRL scale. We have three types of proposals that we accept, or three funding categories. That's A, which is feasibility studies, B, which is product development, and then C, which is project demonstration. So obviously, feasibility studies will be a little bit earlier in the technology readiness scale, whereas product demonstration will be much further along typically. We have a question from Christopher Hansen asking about the rules and guidelines for matching funding. At the consortium, we do encourage all folks to bring any cost share opportunities they may have and present those with their proposals. That always helps concepts cases. In terms of the rules and guidelines, any funding that is put towards a project will be held towards the same scrutiny as our own public funding provided by the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority and the Department of Energy. Abby asks if we consider proposals focused in the policy space. Typically, not so much. We are a research and development entity that's focused more on technical solutions. However, strategy, we recognize, plays a large part in enabling some aspects of offshore wind. So we do occasionally award more strategy-related projects versus pure technical innovation. We have an anonymous question about whether the $4 million award is just for the one topic area. The $4 million will be, it's up to $4 million for round one of this solicitation. So that $4 million will be distributed amongst the three challenge areas that are listed on the slide that you guys have up right now. And there's no requirement that we fund each equally or anything like that. It's just we see how things score. We have a question about any restrictions around foreign entities joining as a team member. We do not have restrictions, although all proposals are subject to completing foreign work waivers that go through the DOE approval process. So that is kind of an extra hoop to jump through. Our guidance is typically if there are domestic entities who can complete the same work, it's usually safer to go that route. However, we do recognize that the offshore wind is definitely an international industry, and there's oftentimes a need for international expertise. We have a question as to whether the information is online yet, if not when. Right now, this is kind of our first public release regarding this solicitation. We do plan to issue the full public solicitation documents sometime in August. We have a question about whether the same applicant can submit proposals in several challenge areas. That is the case, although I believe that there is a limitation to one proposal submission per challenge area per applicant. You can go ahead and check that when the full solicitation documentation is made public in August. That is detailed more concretely. We have a question about how about electrolysis using wind farms to supply hydrogen for energy and oxygen for healthcare in COVID-19. This question kind of pertains to subject matter, so I'm going to have to defer to the release of the full public solicitation documents, hopefully later this month. Is it possible to get feedback for our submission last year that was not selected for funding? At this time, the feedback window has closed. However, upon notifications of either award or entities having not been selected for award, we do offer anyone who is not selected for award the opportunity to receive a debrief where we summarize the consolidated feedback of the scoring committee. That option is offered for all unsuccessful proposers and has been for every solicitation to date, and it will be the same process going forward. We have a question from Under asking if there will be a specific focus area for supply chain efficiency and the industrialization challenge area. I cannot elaborate on that title at this time, although I can clarify that it probably would be more specific if we had intended it to be. Michael St. James asks whether this question is permissible. We'll find out. Does the pending round one solicitation offer scope for anything related to technology to facilitate workforce development? We're going to have to punt on this one. Also, we'll wait for the full solicitation documentation release later in the month. Fernando D'Amato asks how many total awards are planned for round one. This all depends on the number of proposals received, as well as the scoring feedback that we receive from our internal and external scoring teams. And our budget, of course. Last one is somebody asking if they're correct in thinking that innovative environmental solutions for scour protection would be included in round two. I can share that there will be environmental topics in round two, although at this time we have not fully fleshed out the challenge areas as you saw earlier in the webinar. So I'll leave my response at that. A lot of good questions here. I appreciate everyone's participation. I think I've now made it through all of them. So at this point, I think we can continue and actually close out the presentation here. So before I close the webinar, I'd like to state that we'll be posting a live recording of this event, as well as the PDF version of the webinar deck to the web within the next 24 hours. We'll make sure that all registrants receive links to both. I'd like to thank everyone for making the time to attend today's event and learn a little bit more about our upcoming innovations in offshore wind solicitation 2.0. We look forward to sharing more information with you, hopefully later in the month. Have a great week, everyone.